Hi, I'm Alan, again. This is part 3 of Alan's guide to becoming a competent and safe motorcyclist. This section covers what I consider to be the second most important part, defensive driving. In the previous videos, I covered motorcycle handling skills, which I called the third most important thing, less important than defensive driving. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. I'm saving the most important subject for last, but please do not get ahead of me. Defensive driving, as you well know, is a huge subject. There is no chance I'm going to cover very much of it in 15 minutes. I'm not going to list all of the things that can go wrong and what to do about them. What I will do instead is to present a set of guidelines and philosophies that I think will set the stage for being a good defensive driver. I will focus on the ways that I look at the problem that I think have widespread applicability. Maybe they will strike a chord with you or complement what you already know. I will describe some goals that I focus on that help me to continue to improve. I will also cover some things that I see all too often being done wrong. People do abrupt and stupid things. A big part of defensive driving is building up your database of what to watch out for. This comes with experience. The older we are, the more of these things we've seen. The shame is that it would be nice to have this experience early so we have a better chance of knowing what we need to know before we actually need to know it. We need to speed up the process of getting experience. One thing that we all have going for us is that virtually everything we have learned from the automotive world applies to motorcycles as well. You can practice your skills when you are in your car. In fact, you don't even have to be the driver. If you're going to ride a motorcycle, you want to be looking for every way that you can to improve your defensive driving skills. So when you are in a car, pay attention. By all means, read everything you can. Read the standard references. Motorcycling Excellence, Proficient Motorcycling, and my current favorite, Ride Hard, Ride Smart, which has nothing to do with riding hard and everything to do with riding smart. Read magazines. I can list 6 key concepts that govern my approach to defensive driving. Here they are. First, I mentioned it before. Remember Allen's rule number 1. Never fall down on the street. There is no guarantee that you will walk away from anything. Falling over at a stop sign might be the last thing you ever do. Any accident can kill you. Don't have any. A healthy respect for accidents is your first step to being a good defensive driver. Most people don't have this. Second, I'm sure you have heard the advice to drive like people are out to get you. In my opinion, this is not workable. If people are out to get you, they will get you. Goals should be achievable, or else we start ignoring them. But what you can do is to assume that people don't see you, that you are invisible. You can actually do this a pretty large percentage of the time. The sad part is that you will be correct far too often. If you think this way, like you are invisible, a lot of what people do will make more sense, and you will be ready for it. That said, of course, don't actually be invisible. Think bright colors, bright lights, and be where people can see you. We'll come back to that. Third, we all know that people get distracted and they do things they shouldn't. Okay, that's the world we live in. But it is important to remember that you are one of these people too. You are not perfect. You will get distracted. You will miss things. You will not see people you should see. If you realize this, and few do, it will serve you well. So give yourself an extra margin for error. Keep your distance from people. Don't ride next to people or in their blind spots. Even if you think you'll have time to react, you might be out to lunch when that time comes. Keep your speed differential low. Don't come up on people or pass people too quickly. Give other people time to see you, including the people you might not have seen. If these sound like things you are going to do anyway to protect yourself from others, then add some extra to it. Also remember that other people are your last safety net for when you mess up. Don't shut them out. Do you use your blinker when someone is around? Good. Use it when no one is around too, so perhaps the guy you didn't see can get out of your way when he needs to. Don't be the guy who makes the unexpected maneuver. Don't do anything abruptly yourself. Give others a chance to save you. Next, my overriding philosophy about accidents is that most accidents don't happen because something goes wrong. They happen because 2 things go wrong. The first one distracts you, the second one gets you. Your classic 1-2 punch. What can you do about that? 2 things, actually. The first is pretty simple. Fix things quickly. Be done with them before the second thing happens. Never let any problem go on longer than it needs to. If someone is close to you, passing you, needing to merge in front or behind, then do something to get it over with. Make extra room for them. Change lanes earlier. Think of this as a distraction, which it is. It takes some attention. Without being abrupt, end it as soon as you can. Also, if you want to fix one problem before the second one happens, then you surely don't want to let two things happen at once. The MSF advice to change your speed so multiple events become separated in time is excellent. Almost always, this means slow down. What's the second thing you can do? Item 5 on my list if you're counting. Maybe you guessed it. Don't let things happen in the first place. Can you really do this? You would be amazed. When was the last time that you had to abruptly move out of someone's way and you got that little adrenaline rush? Whenever this was, you made a serious mistake. Take my word for it. This needs to never happen. Here is the game you can play that will help. Anytime you have to make an unplanned adjustment to your path because of what someone else does, give yourself a demerit. Any change at all, any change in speed or lane position that you weren't planning on. If you had one of those adrenaline rushes, then give yourself a whole slew of demerits. To do well at this game, you will have to do more than watch out for just yourself. You will have to watch out for the people around you. Is the guy next to you gaining on the person in front of him? Is someone getting in or out of a parked car up front that might affect people in the adjacent lane? Is there a pedestrian getting ready to cross the street? Are kids playing nearby? These are the things that cause other people to break and change lanes, sometimes abruptly. Don't wait for this to happen. Move out of their way beforehand. Sure, you'll make a few unnecessary movements, but it's really fun to make room for the guy who's about to cut you off before he even decides to do it, or to move away from the center line in a corner before you see the oncoming traffic. Over time, you will see your frequency of demerits diminish, probably by a lot. You will go from counting demerits to counting time between demerits to perhaps forgetting when the last one was. Of course, this is really not a game. It's important. You really can keep things from happening. Otherwise, there will be a day when the thing you didn't prevent is also the thing you didn't see. The game is fun. Play it whenever you want to be safe. Most of us have heard the advice to always have escape paths planned. I prefer to be preventative. If I can think of something that is likely enough to plan an escape path for, then I'd rather just go ahead and take it. Sixth, last but not least, there are no unimportant items here. Don't make any assumptions. You don't know nearly as much as you think you do. Don't assume that people see you. People looking at you will be looking through you a lot of the time. Don't assume that you know what they are going to do. Don't even assume that you know what they are doing now or why. My favorite example is the car in front of me that pulled off to the right to give me a chance to pass. Turns out they never saw me. They were starting a U-turn. And if what someone is doing looks odd, then realize that it probably doesn't look odd to them. So that means for sure you are missing something. Don't assume the road is clear. If you want to assume something, then assume the road isn't clear. Every corner has sand on it until you see that it doesn't. Every blind corner has an obstruction somewhere or a truck coming at you over the center line. Defensive driving means you need to be ready. And certainly don't assume that people will do what they are supposed to. Before I assume that someone is going to do what they are supposed to, I need to see some real evidence. And even then, I try to hold out as long as I can. A friend of mine gave up motorcycling years ago because he hit a slippery patch in an intersection in the middle of the night and fell down. He said motorcycling is dangerous. That's a situation I couldn't have avoided. I couldn't have foreseen. My response to that is, you should foresee it in every single corner, period. Okay, that's my list of key concepts for defensive driving. If you stayed with all of that, then good job. Those thoughts have served me well for many years. But I told you this was a big subject, so we're not done yet. I want to cover 3 last points. 3 very important things that we do 100% of the time that are totally within our control, and so it only makes sense that we should do them well. These are use of our eyes, lane position, and following distance. First, use your eyes correctly. I could have listed this in the previous section. Your eyes are everything on a bike. You've heard of target fixation, the tendency to go where you look. Use this to your advantage. Don't look at the object in your path, find a way around it and look there. On a track, you are taught to focus on the apex of the next corner. But before you get there, find a spot well past the corner and focus there. On the street, these same techniques will help you adhere to a line. If you were bobbling about, then you were probably not looking far enough ahead. But on the street, there's one big difference. You have too much to look at and too little time. You can never focus on one thing. If you find yourself fixating, you need to snap out of it. This takes concentration. You have to scan incessantly. Use your peripheral vision. You have to prioritize where you look based on danger and warning time. You have to be sure your immediate area is safe, including sides, mirrors, and blind spots. Then you work your way forward, making sure you are safe farther out in time, all the while scanning to make sure nothing closer in has changed. However, a requirement in this process is that you spend at least some of your time, your attention, at about 10 to 12 seconds ahead. This is what it takes to not be surprised. If you can't do that because there is too much going on closer in, then you are going too fast. If you're always playing catch-up, reacting to close-in problems that you didn't see coming, and slowing down is not a choice or doesn't work, then you shouldn't be riding where you are. Either you need more experience, or maybe it's just plain dangerous. As for lane position, the common teaching is this. You are told that the center of your lane accumulates oil, and so you should stay in either the left or right tire track, preferably the left, so you stay away from the edge of the road and help protect your space from passing cars. As a general rule, I wouldn't argue with this. But I do want you to think outside the box. I want you to be revisiting your lane position absolutely all the time. You want to minimize the risks that can happen from each side. These risks are continuously changing, and so should you. Stay left to avoid car doors opening, people and cars waiting to cross in front of you, cars rolling through stop signs, cars and kids coming out of driveways. Stay right when cars are approaching from the front or when cars are waiting to turn left in your path. Give yourself the extra space. When cars are coming at you, the lead car might see you, but those following him will see you earlier and easier if you stay to the right. Move side to side as these things change. Worried about the oncoming car turning left? And you should be. Wiggle around in your lane a little bit to attract his attention. Stay in the middle when things are happening on both sides. And slow down. That should be your normal response when a lot of things are going on around you. On a mountain road, maybe the left tire track puts you too close to the oncoming lanes, while the right tire track is too close to the edge of the road. Stay in the middle. Worried about traction? Slow down. Passing a bicycle? Treat the center line as a suggestion. Nothing is sacred when it comes to lane position. Third, following distance. I'm a fanatic about following distance, and there were two good reasons for this. First, some time ago, and probably still, following too close was the #1 cause of highway accidents in California. It is accepted by everyone to be the #1 cause of rear-end accidents. There are many who believe that it is the #1 cause of accidents altogether. That should be all the reason you need. For me, my second reason is that was the cause of my one downfall. I hit a stepladder in the middle of a double lane change. It took me a while to realize that my error, aside from being in a hurry and not scanning far enough ahead, was that I was too close to the car in the middle lane, even though I wasn't actually planning on staying there. For that brief instant, I couldn't see enough of the road ahead. You should know that pretty much everything that happens in a brief instant, just like that one. Way too few people seem to care about following distance. People follow too closely all the time. They let it happen to them all the time. The police don't seem to do any enforcement. It's hard to call these accidents. They're simple to prevent. They're the predictable result of stupid behavior. Just don't do it. California recommends a 3-second following distance, which is a very sensible number. Try it. You'll like it. Remember, you need a margin for error too. Try explaining to someone your reasons for following too close and see if you can get through it without feeling like an idiot. And don't let people tailgate you. You don't need to slam your brakes on. You quit that habit anyway. Just back off the gas, perhaps tap your brake lights, and then speed back up again. Repeat if necessary. If there is room ahead of you, by all means encourage them to pass. This is easy on a bike. Find a good spot, put your right blinker on, slow down, and wave them by. It's a win-win situation. They don't want to be behind you either. Let them have their accident somewhere else. So lastly, let's talk about following distance and lane position together. Let me put it this way. I want to be able to wiggle around in my lane whenever I want to, and I want 3 seconds or more of following distance front and back. And that's the end of the story. You know what's coming. Riding in formation solves one problem, which happens intermittently, at the expense of almost everything else, almost all the time. If this is what you do, try something else for a while and see what you think. Well, congratulations, you did it. You know how to ride a bike and you know how to be defensive. Next, you get to hear what I think is the most important thing you need to do right in order to live out the rest of your days enjoying a motorcycle. If you've gotten this far, I know you won't quit now. See you there in Alan's Guide Part 4. Cheers for now.